The greatest losers in the capitalist transformation of the West were those people who tried to maintain existing communal economies. Hello. So what does it mean to think like a historian? Well...
Hey, Gerald, are you here?
Hey, hey, Grace.
Hey, what's this?
Just getting, set up.
Athos, what are you doing here?
Is that your dog?
Yeah, that's my...
Sorry, I gotta take a call.
Are we gonna record?
Yeah, go ahead. You get started.
Okay. That was really weird. So what does it mean to think like a historian? Take 17. Does that mean you have to get into a historically accurate costume and go to a reenactment? Does it mean you get some glasses and leather elbow patches and ponder the intricacies of human civilization, all while smoking a pipe? What does it mean for students in a survey-level history course to practice being historians, to think like a historian, and to write our own interpretations of the past? To understand this better, let's talk about what historians actually do. They are, in a sense, time travelers. Unlike Doc and Marty, or Bill and Ted.
This readout tells you where you're going, this one tells you where you are, this one tells you where you were. You input your destination time on this keypad. Say you want to see the signing of the Declaration of Independence.
I don't have to have access to a literal time machine to answer the question, what must it have been like to see the ancient pyramids of the Maya or Aztec? I don't have to grab a DeLorean to witness the devastation of a Civil War battlefield or feel the devastating loss of a loved one from the Spanish influenza of 1918. All historians are time travelers, going back in time to encounter and understand the past through what is left behind. We can read what still remains from the past, treat it like a time capsule, and use it to write an understanding of the past. With the right tools, any of us can do this. Besides time travelers, historians are storytellers. What I love about history is that it is storytelling at its most basic. What better subject than the history of humans and what they have done and how they have changed and manipulated the world around them? I once heard a historian explain the telling of a good story involves more than just stating facts. It's not particularly interesting if it is just listing names and dates and random facts. What makes a story good, what keeps us interested, are the telling of the actions and choices of our characters and the impact of those choices. Look at a choose-your-own-adventure story. What is the appeal? Each choice in the story builds and creates a different outcome. Each reading is new and exciting, and a new perspective can dramatically change the outcome. Has anyone ever been like me and wanted to go back to your previous choice and see what the alternative would be if you made another choice? Doesn't it become impossible to go back and try every scenario? Being a historian is a little like chasing that rabbit trail, attempting to unravel what influenced that person, nation, or country to make that choice at that time. What impact did it have on those people, or ones 500 years in the future? History can be a choose-your-own-adventure story after the story has reached its conclusion, as we try to unravel how humans got to this point in time and understand its impact on the present. So this gets us back to that question again. How can we think like historians? How can we use the past to understand our present? Essentially, thinking like a historian involves asking a lot of questions. You should develop a repertoire of the right questions to ask. What a lot of people don't realize is that there is an aspect to history that is a science and has a historical method. A historian will often begin a research project with a question and a hypothesis, and gather data to see if that hypothesis is supported by the historical data. For example, a historian may theorize that the economic disadvantage of modern African Americans is not just due to a long, dark history of institutionalized slavery. If it were solely based on slavery, then wouldn't economic outcomes improve once slavery ended? Some people might conclude it is because of racial inferiority or a lack of initiative on the part of former slaves. A historian might ask the question, what else could potentially explain the economic disparity between Black and white American wealth? Could it also be due to systemic government policies that throttled the Black community's economic growth and resulted in generations of Black Americans accruing less wealth to pass on to their descendants? They could then gather data and look at the processes and policies from 20th century government programs and provide a historical argument that slavery is not the only cause for a lack of generational wealth among Black Americans in relation to their white counterparts. This is exactly the historical argument made by Ta-Nehisi Coates in his 2014 seminal Atlantic article, The Case for Reparations. In this article, he outlines a case, much like a lawsuit, for reparations based on the fact discrimination and inequality were coded into government policies and social safeguards that led to the creation of middle class in America in the 20th century. In that way, historians are also like lawyers. We are making a case and arguing for our interpretation just as a lawyer argues a case with evidence available to them. There's a reason so many lawyers often start with history degrees. The discipline of writing and supporting history requires gathering and interpreting the evidence to make a strong case. Very often, there is a difference of opinion among historians interpreting the same pieces of evidence. This is similar to the way in which the prosecution and defense argue different interpretations of evidence in a court case. Ultimately, historians want to make sure that their argument is supported with examples from the sources and contextually accurate. Taking snippets of a document out of context could drastically change its interpretation. A good historian will center their interpretation in its context and gather strong supports for their argument. This is where perspective and examining bias become an essential part of writing good history. If we want to write a good story that is reliable and based on fact, we must understand contextual biases as well as acknowledge our own cultural and historical biases. History is not objective, and the lens in which we view historical documents is often shaped by our own experiences and culture. It becomes essential in understanding the past to listen to diverse voices and perspectives, and pull from all of them to create that narrative. So now that we know how a historian thinks, let's try this out.